Alright everybody, this is Tyler from Tenthumbs Pro. Today we're coming at you with some chord melody. Now the idea of this is to kind of be a beginner chord melody lesson, but it's not for beginners because you're going to need some bar shapes and there's going to be some tricky things in there. So it's not for a true beginner, but it's for an intermediate player that would be considered a beginner in this style of play, okay? So what I want you to do, I want you to grab that ukulele brain attention span. You should think about becoming a Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get PDFs with all these lessons. Skype lessons one-on-one if you're interested. But if you came just because you want your chords to make some melody, man, I dig it and I respect it. I want you to grab that ukulele brain attention span, follow me in, and let's break this one down right now. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to need to do is make ourselves familiar with the F major scale, because the F major scale is what we're going to be using as our vehicle for this song. So we're going to need an, well, first of all, just go through a tap form and then I'll tell you the notes too as well. Okay, so the scale looks and sounds like this. Okay, and now from top to bottom. So that's the very first thing you should get under your fingers. You should be familiar with that scale and be able to play it up and down, not necessarily fast, but even and clearly. Okay, so from the top, nice and clear, up and down. Okay, so let's look at the notes for that real quick, and then we're going to look at the chords. And this is all going to be a little more clear why we're going to need this a little later, because when you're playing chord melody, you kind of have some liberty to choose the harmony that you want to go with that chord a little bit to an extent. So you have the ability to kind of use chord substitutions to change the song just a little bit. So we have an F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. Alright? Now if we were to play the chords of this scale, first chord would be F major, G minor, A minor, B flat, C major, D minor, and an E diminished. Back to our F. Okay, now we're going to be mixing that up just a little bit. When you're playing chord melody, it's important to note that the note that's going to ring out clearest is going to be the highest note. It's what your ear hears. So let's make an F major, and we're just going to play an F major chord with our thumb, strum it through. Now, the note that you're really letting ring through there, that you're really hearing, is this A note, right? But what happens when we strum an F major chord, but we don't play the A, and we strum just through the first 3 strings? Well, what you're hearing now is that F note ringing through. Alright? Hear the difference? Okay, and that's going to be important moving forward, because you're going to want to think about the melody, and the idea is to make the melody the highest note that you're going to play in that chord. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play through the scale, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with an F chord, and I'm going to finish with an F chord, and that looks like this. Alright, so you can already see just with those 2 chords we can make kind of an interesting chord melody with the scale. Okay, but well, what happens if we want to make it all, let's say our melody is just walking up the scale. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to look for chords that have these tones. And by tones I mean notes. These notes within the chord. Now let's go back to those first chords we learned. Initially your instinct would be, okay, if it's an F note, it should be an F chord. Alright? If it is a G note, it should be a G minor, right? So let's go through and harmonize this diatonically. F, G minor, Now again, I'm not strumming past that G note, right? A minor, B major, B flat major, C major, D minor, E flat diminished, E diminished, F major. Okay, so let's play through that now without talking, nice and even and slow. Okay, but as you know, these notes repeat themselves in other places in the scale. So for example, let's look at a D major shape up here. We see that this D major chord also has an F note in it. So that doesn't mean that when you're melody that you have to play an F major over an F chord, or you have to play a G minor over a G chord. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to harmonize this entire scale, chord melody, but we're only going to be using the F major, the B flat, and the C. Alright, so we're going to be doing this all with just 3 chords. The tonic, which is the F, subdominant, which is our B flat, and our dominant, which is our C. We'll also be using an interesting C7 shape a little later too. Now, these shapes are valuable because when you're doing this chord melody, you're going to spend a lot of time on this A string, okay? And some time on this E string, but a lot of time on this A string. So these shapes are good to get under your fingers, feel comfortable with, and be ready to move them with, okay? So our F major, our C major, we're going to fret that 3rd fret of the E string and play just the first 3 notes. Okay? Then we're going to play an F major over the A, because we have that A note. So you see we've changed our D minor for a C and our A minor for an F. So just those first 3 chords. B flat. Okay, and then this time you could either play C major, or you could reach up and play an F, which I like to, and grab the C in there. Alright, so that's interesting because that C note is in both the F and the C major, so you can play both. So let's go through those first couple chords. Then we're going to make this F shape, but up here on the 5th fret, this bar chord. And this note here is our D note, and you can hear it's the highest one in there. Then we're going to make a C7 shape that looks like this, alright? And this is based on this G7 shape up here. It looks like this. And you can see in that C7 we have our E note, and then our F chord. So let's play through all these really quick. Well, really slow, but nice and even, okay? Alright, back down. Okay, and so that is the basics. What you need to be able to do is you need to be able to play that fluently, okay? And then now also know that when you're doing these things, let's say if we were to take a basic melody like a... You don't have to try to get chords for all those. You can also do single note lines. Okay, so chord melody also mix the melody and the chords. You don't always need to harmonize every single note. Okay, so one more time up through the F major scale. Alright, and that's what you should practice and feel comfortable with that. Then now what I want you to do now is try to take some melodies that you know, write them out, and see what chords in the scale would work. Because if here on our F major we have our root note, so we know that our root note will work great with our tonic chord. Our second note will work great with our 5 chord. Our 3rd note in the scale will sound great with our root again. The 4th with the subdominant. The 5th you could either do with the root or the dominant. The 6th will sound great with your 4 chord. The 7 will sound absolutely great with a dominant in your root. Okay, so what you should really do is examine that out, lay it out, and look at the melody and how it relates to these chords, and then try to take a little basic melody that you have and create this chord melody. Now this lesson was created specifically to get us warmed up for an interesting lesson that we're going to have on Saturday. So get ready for some more chord melody on Saturday. This was a basic intro to what chord melody is and kind of how it functions. Okay, TenthumbsPro.com. Take care, everybody. Alright, Tenthumbspro.com, that's what chord melody looks like. That's the intro. I hope you dig it. I hope you liked it. Subscribe, learn new lessons every Wednesday, new lessons every Saturday, everything you need to be a better ukulele player. Become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You get PDFs of all the lessons. You're going to learn faster, I promise it, alright? We have a lot of happy people over there. Plus, if you want to go to Instagram and check out some cool ukulele, plus some travel videos as well, and some other things that we're doing over there, alright? Okay, Tenthumbspro.com, and until next time, keep on uking bro sifs and sister sifs. Alright, life is good. Take care.